Hi everyone, Don Stucker here. I'm going to be making homemade tamales today, or at least my version of them. The first thing you need is malsa. I've got 4 cups in the mixer. Then you need oil. The recipe calls for 2/3 of a cup per 2 cups. I don't use that much. I don't think it needs it, so I don't do it. Who needs all that fat? But you do need some. So this is the secret part. This is pork fat that I cooked yesterday I bought a pork butt, put it in the slow cooker, cooked it all day, and then with tomatoes, garlic, and onion, and some jalapenos. This is the juice, that was the fat. Add that to the malsa. That is what will make it taste delicious. I've just got the dough hook on right now. Okay, so you need a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, the consistency is dough-like, but a little wetter. So while that's mixing up, like I said, yesterday I took and slow cooked the pork. Second. That's getting real close. It's obviously not mixed fully, but and the juice is strained so that there's no chunks in the malsa. There's plenty of chunks in the inside the tamale to make good. I am new to creating videos, so bear with me. I create excellent food. I don't know if I'll make good videos. So that looks really close. Pretty good. Let me grab some gloves. You don't have to use gloves, I just prefer to. So you want it to stick together and squeeze, but yet still be crumbly. You don't want it to be too wet. But you do want it to hold together. And I'm just going to run through making maybe a half dozen or so, because it is a very long process. I've had my corn husks rinsed and soaking now for a couple hours. And they're going to smell like vinegar when you open them. They're stored in vinegar. Not exactly sure what. I'm sure it has to do with killing germs and keeping them fresher. But I'm guessing. Alright, so I take a rolling pin and do it. My mom did it that way, so that's the way I pretty much learned. So it's the way I do it. Piece of cling wrap and a rolling pin. Here, we'll go ahead and use that on there. Keep that from drying out too much. All right. Grab a spoon. All right, so you will have some corn husk and hairs here and there. You have to kind of pick at. Nobody wants those. There's two sides to a shell, a corn husk. There's the outside and the inside. One side feels waxy. It's weird because you'd think the curvature side that it's already curving to is the side you'd want to use, but you actually, most of the time, it's the other that's the waxy side. So it will be a little more challenging to make them that way, but it's worth it. If they stick to the inside, if you don't use the right side, you'll have to scrape the tamale out of the shell So I just put in enough to be able to roll it flat. Some people say 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. I do not do that much. I stay somewhere in the 1/8 inch thick. It's not super thick, it's not super thin. Grab some of your meat. Let's see, where's my little tongs at? And like I said, I pre-prepped everything yesterday as far as the meat goes. You just put a nice amount. Can't put too much or you won't be able to roll it. Fold it, just kind of pull it under, roll it. Take and fold that, and there you go. There's a tamale. Try to set it somewhere where it doesn't unroll on you. Okay, like I said, you can feel the wax. I mean, it definitely has a waxy feel to it. And then the other side is pretty ribbed. The ribs are on the inside also, but not as pronounced. You'll mess up a few the first time, but after you get it, it's not too bad. But they still turn out delicious. You just gotta scrape them. And as my mom always taught me, there is no perfect, there is nothing that needs to be special about it. You have to have a few things. Like I've tweaked the ingredients. I don't put as much fat in as most people do, but yet I also don't use just regular stock. I make my own. When I make my pork, I make my own stock, so that way, I believe it's the fat content that helps. The pork fat, not positive on that, but they come out delicious. So I ain't changing nothing. And your corn husks are going to be sized differently. I mean, you just go with it. My mom would sometimes double them up. I find that to be more of a pain in the butt. If it's small, I make a small tamale. If it's big, I make a big tamale. I don't get real picky with it. Generally, I share with my brothers, and I throw them in the freezer. And eat on them for lunch for a couple of months. But it's definitely a 4 or 5 hour process to get done. If you were going to make a big batch like I'm making, if you're just making them for dinner, an hour normal. No big deal, you could make 15 or 20 of them. But I make about 6 dozen. I've got to have some to share with my brothers, some to throw in the freezer. I give some to the in-laws every once in a while. And as you'll see, there is nothing perfect about anything here. It's just get it rolled out, get a decent thickness, roll it up. I have found that pretty much you cannot go wrong. If your salsa is good and your meat is good, you pretty much, it's a bit much for that small one. I have never really had a problem. Some of the when my wife helps me, she's a little more picky on how we, more uniform to the meat and to the size, and I'm just not that patient. But I don't feel like it changes much. I am making a mess. And you will, because it's the corn husks have to soak or they'll dry and they won't be flexible. They'll just crack and break on you. And obviously you could take the time and take a towel and dry them off a little more than I do. Again, the wife is a lot more patient than I am. And takes the time to do some of those things when she's helping, but again, it doesn't change the flavor or the taste. They turn out great. I try not to go too far over the edge or even to the edge because it'll just dry out there on the end. It's better to have it tucked back a little ways. And that's a little narrow. I'd like to have it a little bit wider. But again, nothing has to be exact. It will make a delicious tamale if you've got the right ingredients on the inside. So, that's our 6-pack right there. And I always bundle them in 6-packs. For me, it's the easiest. And then I find some of the smaller, like this. And just strip them. And I'd use string too. Just depends on how I'm doing it at the time. But there's always corn husks in the process, so you might as well use corn husks. Unless you don't like it. You do have to fight them a little bit sometimes. And again, nothing's really uniform, no sizing, perfect or anything. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that the flavoring is correct at the start. And this is definitely where the wife comes in handy for the extra set of hands. And I'm not going to be able to do it. It's okay. Well, that's not going to work out today. Yep. All right, so give me just a second. I'll get some string. It is an ugly roll of tamales, but it is a roll of tamales. Tucked in there. Maybe a little stick. All right. My mom would laugh. All right, so there's a stack. When I get them done, I'll bring you back at the end when I put them in the steamer and kind of show you how I do it and everything. But that's essentially what you got to do. a whole lot of times if you want to make a bunch. Like I said, if you're making them for dinner, it's not too big of a deal. You certainly wouldn't want to make that much malsa or probably that much meat, but I've got a lot to make. So thanks for watching. So I just use stock pot with a steamer basket on the bottom, which I've used a grate before. It works fine, like a cooling rack or anything that holds it up off the water so you can have water in the bottom but not be sitting in the water. I use this just to keep the tamales upright. Then I take all your rejects and just line the bottom to keep everything off the water and just give you a little bit more of a separation. Then I just stack them in. I kind of keep them organized a little bit so I can remember which one's my chicken and which one's my pork, because I don't label them until I put them in the freezer. So those are all my porks. Then I have 3 chickens made. So that basically is a full pot. And there's no way I would have really got much more in there. So then I just take, again, the leftovers. And just make a cover over everything. Nothing too fancy, just something to keep everything from drying out, holding the moisture as best as possible. Throw the lid on. I started out on high, but I won't leave it there. I'll probably turn it down to about medium heat when it gets to boiling. You'll hear it. You want to steam them for about, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes. Some people say an hour. Every time I steam them an hour, my malsa is a little bit rubbery, a little bit drier, so I started backing it down and found 35 to 40 minutes is about perfect. But it's 35 to 40 minutes of boil time. So you gotta listen, you gotta be on top of it and make sure that when you start to hear it boil, then you start your 30 to 35 minutes. Because it'll take 8 to 10 minutes to start getting it hot enough to boil that pot. All right, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Towel. So they're officially done now, and I just take them out, let them cool down some, and then wrap them up in 6-packs and freeze them. Leave some out to eat, throw them in the freezer. I eat on them for hell until they're gone, and then I make another batch. I'll go ahead and get one out. Show you what they look like. Try it out. See how they turned out. So, let's see if I can just slide one. There we go. Slide one out of the steamer. So if I pick the right side, it'll roll right out of the shell. Just like that. So this is the chicken and cheese. And it's cream cheese and just shredded chicken with some jalapenos. excellent. Which does happen to be our favorite. The pork ones are pretty good. I love the pork recipe, and the pork needs to be in them also, like I said at the beginning. But the chicken and cheese are hands down the best. I mean, just that cream cheese with jalapeno and shredded chicken with basically no seasoning other than jalapeno, just to kick it up. Well, that pretty much does it. I could stand here and eat in front of you, but that doesn't really make sense. All right, well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.